which is being adopted. But we have something, as you know, everybody knows that the ISO, the International Organization for Standardization, which has come up with n number of standards for each industry, depending upon the requirements, depending upon the nature of the industries, and how it will help to meet the standards and meet the requirements of the customer. We have information security, which is ISO 27001, which is now the basic requirement in the banking sector, IT sector, especially the call center areas, where any leakage or hacking of the data is very much dangerous. In fact, one of my friends here spoke about cloud computing and how information security is very much essential in those areas. Apart from that, nowadays the standards have also come as business continuity area, which is very good. And I mean, it helps in disaster management, how the critical services can be restored without the customer impact. The revenue impact should be minimized. And the primary security standard, and the primary standard which ISO developed was about the quality management, ISO 2000 series, which was even during the time of the industrial revolution started. So, under the quality umbrella, ISO is gaining momentum. Every organization is trying to certify itself in ISO standard so that it gives mileage and it helps the organization to fetch more customers, improve their image in the market, and help the business grow. Also, we have certain things like total quality management, we have welcome rules. All these practices or things which are adopted are just to sustain the improvement and how to bring about more customer satisfaction without incurring more expenses or without doing the things repeatedly and without entering the business in that. So, I mean, this is regarding the quality of mind. If you have any questions.
You were talking about Six Sigma. How do you think Six Sigma is impacting the IP-related services?
Exactly. When Six Sigma started somewhere in the 1980s, this was applied in the major processes, digital manufacturing processes, sales area, production area, transactional process area. But as nowadays the service industry is booming, they have adopted something which is known as Six Sigma and following the methodology, which is the DMAC methodology, and following the PDCA. Now, let me give you the real example. In our company, which is totally like we are part of the information services, we are not into the manufacturing. Maybe our core business area is the manufacturing area, but we need information services. We do not have any core manufacturing. We are part of the information services. But very recently we realized that there is a need to adopt Six Sigma, and the area which was identified for the business was to reduce the procurement cycle time. Now, the procurement which is done by the organization, whether it is capital expenditure or revenue expenditure, it requires some amount of minimum lead time, and the entire end-to-end process has to complete in a certain amount of time. So, the organization realized that it was taking around 60 to 70 days. Which was not good, which was impacting the customer, and it was also hampering the process. So, the project sponsor came up with the idea that why not we make it 30 days? And if we analyze the data, we can see that 30 days is also possible if we follow the proper methodology. So, procurement cycle time is one of the area which is selected. Apart from this, vendor payment cycle is also there are certain projects which are known as enhancements that are done by the IT industries. In those areas also the lead time is very high, which has to be minimized by adopting certain practices. So all these initiatives, quality initiatives, are coming under the Six Sigma umbrella, but it is not necessary that the level of Six Sigma is achieved. 99.9%.
Do you have any idea of Lean Sigma?
Yeah, Lean. I mean, this was particularly adopted by the so-called manufacturing industry itself, and the idea was to improve the quality by doing the total quality management. So, Lean is basically the small-scale initiatives which are taken to improve some part of the business area, not the entire business.
Okay. Common sense. Why we are saying that let's forget best practices? I think one of the key elements of applying common sense is that it involves globalization. So, best practice usually involves a lot of generic statements and generic guidance. But common sense can involve a lot of localization that helps the organization at large. An example is the best practice might ask for, let's say, for an IT support environment. The best practice might preach that, you log an incident, you transfer the ticket, and the resolver team needs to do something. But common sense might apply that this is too trivial an issue to go through that route and do it something differently, which is quicker, which reduces cost. Now, the best practice might have such guidance somewhere in the books, but common sense helps in localizing that, implementing it according to the organization need. Common sense at times works faster. I attended a quality session by some guru at one point of time, and he was a very strong preacher of Six Sigma practices. However, he warned everybody after he led the session to not use Six Sigma principle to remove a waste paper aspect. I mean, do not go to an extent of what is the problem, define that, find a solution, just remove it. So at times it helps solving the problem much quicker than following best practices, because we might get mired down into the details. I think that's also another point, that best practices are usually, I'm not saying 100%, usually written with large organizations keeping in mind, because of, so that it can cover all integrities and motives of an organization. So while that helps the larger organization to implement such best practices, which can talk about continual improvement and the improvement path it takes. However, common sense might be more beneficial for the smaller organization, because for them it might be too mammoth to implement, and they might get, at times they get lost in, do we really need all that? And while the book is preaching that we might not need all of it, you talk of CMMI, you talk of ITSM, you talk of any other standard of frameworks, they always say not all organizations need everything, but sometimes they get confused. Use common sense, do things that you think works for your organization, keep it local, keep it to an optimum level, and ensure that you bring in a lot of innovation. Because if you are following best practices time and again, then you will not be able to innovate. If you have that frame in mind that, I have to follow certain guidelines and practices, irrespective of what happens, I don't think that works in that fashion. So these are some of the key elements that I thought why we should apply common sense more often than best practices.
As my friend just told that applying common sense is more difficult, I would like to refer here that not only the big organizations are gaining by applying the best practices. Best practices gives you the mileage of knowing the entire team, entire framework, how things are correlated, how things are codependent. As he cited an example, that if some breakdown has happened, then we need to log an incident or it will go to the problem. But if we are not doing that and we are simply resolving that without undertaking any framework, then it may impact other services which are not there in mind. A person simply removing one of the things without knowing what impact it will have on other services, on other areas, it can lead to a huge business impact. But if we have best practices in place, then chances of this impact is minimized, process becomes more process-centric, and revenues are also not impacted. I think everything is very smooth, very concrete and robust. It also happens that the simple logic which is applied by taking the common sense approach may not always work, because there will be something which is at a greater end, which is impacting others. Not only that, best practices gives you the mileage to go ahead and share with other companies, other organizations, how things are happening. It is by applying common sense, you are confining yourself to a particular thing, and you do not get the visibility of what other organizations are doing or what is there in store for you. Something bigger is there, your organization can benefit, you can have a global presence, which common sense will never give you. common sense will confine to a limited extent and it will not take other areas into account. So here, even the chances are there that by following the best practices, the standardization approach can be taken. Even the chances for certification is there, organization can be certified. Or if not certified, then everything is in place and different organizations which are adopting this framework can share their opinion, or even current organization, your current organization can benefit by getting the share. Take for example the ITI framework, which was not adopted by many of the IT companies. Many of the IT companies thought that we will just need to work on processes, incident problem change, and we will not stick to other things, other processes. But as this framework became larger, from ITI V2 to ITI V3, more and more companies adopting this framework, the things came out automatically that IT organization thought that yes, full-fledged deployment has to be there in ITI. Different resources need to be trained on this framework. Everything will be as per process and it will be in a more refined way rather than simply plugging the thing which is there for a short time. Your common sense approach will be just a temporary fix. But best practices will give you the mileage of a permanent resolution. Things will not reoccur. In case of common sense, it will reoccur. Day after day, it can happen or it will continue. But in case of best practices, things will be different.